everyone. My name is Tim Wright. I am the co-host of the Wonder of Parenting podcast, a brain science approach to parenting. And I am here side by side with my good friend, the other co-host of that show, Dr. Michael Gurian. And we wanted to spend a few minutes sharing with you some thoughts about a really important summit coming up called the Helping Boys Thrive Summit. It's going to be a teleconference. It's going to be happening on October 1st. And I thought it'd be good just to hear from Michael Marion himself. He's the father of this summit. He's the visionary for it. So Michael, why a Helping Boys Thrive Summit versus, say, a Helping Boys and Girls Thrive Summit, or even a Helping Girls Thrive Summit?
Well, yeah, it's not an either or, of course. I mean, there are so many things that happen for girls, and we've done summits that are helping boys and girls and helping girls. But the Helping Boys Thrive I think is more because there aren't resources around boys and not enough resources around boys. And we constantly hear this from parents, from educators, from mental health counselors. Male development is just not really well studied. Even though obviously we see a lot of males, on TV doing things, but we don't really study it. And so a lot of our boys fall through the cracks, or we don't understand them, and they fall through the cracks in school, in counseling. They leave church, synagogue, and then parents have questions about how to raise them in a very complex age. And so about 7 years ago now, we developed the Helping Boys Thrive Summit. And this will be our first full summit that is done virtually, that's done via the computer, which is of course because of COVID. But we'll be doing the same things. We'll be helping people to understand their sons and helping counselors, educators, everyone to understand how to reach and help boys.
Give us just a couple statistics or studies that show us that boys right now are in crisis here in the United States and really in other parts of the world as well.
Yeah, I'll take COVID out of it for a minute, and then I'm going to add COVID in, actually, because we're getting data. Just at the baseline, boys are getting a pre-COVID classroom, getting about 70% of the D's and F's, and only around 40% of the A's. They're in terms of test scores in all 50 states, and also in all industrial and post-industrial countries, 72 countries. Excuse me, they're behind. Especially in literacy. That's the area where males are most behind. And in terms of counseling, boys kind of drop out of counseling or don't go, men don't go. We have a lot of issues with counseling not really meeting their needs. All the way back in Head Start, we have a preschool to prison pipeline, especially in inner cities and under-resourced communities that Head Start's working on. We're trying to deal with that, and that's mainly a male. And then a school to prison pipeline is mainly boys and men. Incarceration rates and college attendance is around 40% male now and 60% female. So really there's no marker. The only marker where we would see boys ahead of girls, let's say, they're only 2 or 3, and one would be in certain STEM professions, and then the other would be in terms of rape. Obviously women more likely to be raped than men, but in every other marker that we can come up with, or nearly every other one, I may not be thinking of one, boys are far behind girls. And it's something that is really detrimental to girls. I have 2 daughters, you have a daughter, we know this. It's really detrimental to girls to have boys this far behind, to have boys be so uneducated, to have boys, not raised in ways that are healthy for them. And even the parents know they're struggling. It's not good for girls either. So I think the boy crisis impacts everyone.
So talk about how COVID is impacting boys.
Oh yeah, and now we know now we're recording this, in mid to late July in anticipation of October. So now we have 4 months of data. We can see that, like for instance, in death rates, et cetera, right? Everyone probably knows by now that boys and men are 2/3 of the deaths. But we also know in education that around 20% to 25% of boys just they were absentee during online schooling. They didn't have resources, in some inner cities, and it just wasn't a modality where the teachers really knew how to teach them. And girls, handed in more homework, got better grades. So all the things that we saw pre-COVID we saw post-COVID, but that 20 to 25%, that's a bigger margin. So we're having an even bigger academic slide with boys now. And one of the things I will talk about at the summit is some schools will not have reopened or will be hybrids in the fall already by the time we have the summit. And we're working with a lot of schools now, the Green Institute is. And I'll bring that into my talk. I will actually be helping people, parents and teachers, to create more effective COVID classrooms for both boys and girls, but we know statistically it's mainly going to save boys.
So what will people expect when they come to the summit, and who should attend the summit?
Everyone involved in the lives of boys. You're going to find something amazing here. And because of our sponsors, the cost is almost nil. It's very little. It's like $30. And if you have a group, it's $25. So anyone who is interacting with a male in your life, it's definitely worth whatever that is, 2 lattes maybe, or 3 lattes, I don't know. And it lasts 7 days, right? We do it on October 1st. We'll record and we'll be live, answering questions live, but then it'll be available to registrants for 7 days. So anyone working with boys and men, and then specifically, parents, obviously, teachers, mental health counselors, psychiatrists, anyone involved in mental health, physiologic health, nurses, doctors, anyone involved there medically, and then church faith communities. I think there's going to be a lot of interest because of questions everyone's asking around boys, not just are boys coming, to worship or not, but also what about the spiritual life of boys?
Yeah.
No matter the religion, what about the spiritual life of boys, and how important is that in developing a sense of purpose? And we'll be covering deep themes, and we'll be very practical. So for anyone who comes, our work, your work is noted for its practicality. We'll be providing a lot of practical strategies to take home right away or take into the classroom right away.
Now, the 2 of us will be speaking at that, but there are 2 other speakers. You want to just give them a shout out so people get a sense of the depth of our staff for this event?
Yeah, Eva Dwight, who is a retired school teacher and school counselor, and is the program director of the Green Institute now. Eva is one of the most creative teachers and trainers I've ever met, and also has 30 years experience in the field in school buildings. And she's going to do the Educator workshop. So she's going to really look at strategies for educators, all of which can transfer to home and COVID home classrooms too. And then Marion Hill, who is works for Head Start and National Urban League and Greater Phoenix Urban League on our inner city programs and his inner city programs through Head Start. They're doing pilots, Green Institute pilots, working with mainly boys of color and girls of color. And Marion is a man of color and is a really dynamic speaker. His life story is amazing. And then his work over decades working with this population. He has a man cave fatherhood community that he's built. And so Marion will be joining us, and we may have by then another surprise speaker. So, but right now we have Marion, yourself, myself, and Eva. And if people go to helpingboysthrive.org, they'll see the Tele-Summit, and you can get to know all the speakers. It's a great lineup.
We have done several of these together throughout the country, and they have always been such high impact events for people who love boys, but weren't really quite sure what was going on with boys. And I think what the summit does is it creates a sense of urgency that our boys need loving, caring educators and parents and therapists and coaches to come around them. And it also, as you mentioned, gives some real practical strategies. You're going to go home with some implement now things to do in your home, in your classroom, in your counseling office. And that's really what I love about this particular event is it's filled with a lot of good information, but you're going to go home and as minute you walk into your house, of course, you'll be in your house for this one. The minute the summit is over, you're going to have some ideas to implement. And we're really excited to be with you for that. So tell us again, it's going to be when, and where, and how.
So it'll be all day recording on October 1st live. So the registrants can interact with us live on that day. That will then all be recorded. And then over the next 6 days, so it's October 1st through 7th. So then from October 2nd through 7th, you can watch what you didn't get to see. If you weren't there or had to miss an hour or two or something, you can watch that. That's available. And then and you can rewatch And we found that people like to rewatch. We did our Gurian Institute Summer Institute virtually this year, and it was incredibly effective. We were surprised by how effective it was and how much people liked it. And we found that people watched and rewatched because there is, as you've said, I think people will get probably 50 at least practical strategies by the end of the day.
True.
At least.
Yeah.
And so some of that happens fast, and they want to go back and go, oh, I could implement that. How do I do that? So it's from October 1st through 7th, and you go to helpingboysthrive.org. And then one of the first things you'll see is Tele-Summit. You just click that, and then everything's there. You register there. You see everything is there.
Great. Michael, thank you for your time. And we hope if you are looking for ways to better connect with the boys in your lives, you'll join us October 1st, helpingboysthrive.org. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Tim. Thanks, everyone.